Hey, shall we? Shall we start?
Yeah, I think we can start.
Can I? Okay. So anyway, just some admin issues. Okay. So if you have friends who are interested and they are unable to attend, okay, because I think a number of people sign up. Like we had like almost about 70 people who sign up. Okay, but then I'm not sure if everybody can make it. So we will be posting this onto YouTube. Okay, I'm not sure when. Okay, we'll try our best to do this as soon as possible. Okay, so if you missed it, you can always go back and watch the thing. Okay, just that for the Q&A session, if you are not doing this live, then you won't be able to ask any questions. Okay. Okay. Hi. So this is Jay Nicholas. Okay, and this is teacher Shen Ming. Okay, and today here we are here to present to you how to choose your best subject combination. Okay, and okay, just quickly do a self introduction for ourselves first. Teacher Shen Ming, want to start first.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. So, I think most of you all may know me. So, I'm teacher Shen Ming. So, I'm the BlueTree Head of Department for Secondary Science. Just a little bit of my background. Okay. My primary school is Catholic High. My secondary school also Catholic High School. So, 10 years boys school. Then afterwards, I went on to Nanyang JC. Then I moved on to NUS. Okay. It was a relatively smooth journey for me in terms of my academics. I had very good support from my parents, my tutors last time, and my teachers as well. Then when I was in NUS, I studied communication science. Yeah, and then now I'm here. Okay. Yeah. Next, Nicholas.
Okay, so hi, I'm teacher Nicholas. I'm the head of department for secondary school math. Okay, my primary school is St. Anthony's. I don't think you are very interested in that. My secondary school is Bukit Panjang Government High. Okay, and then I went to Pioneer JC. Okay, then eventually I went to NUS to do a degree in psychology lah. Okay, for my own journey, I thought that actually JC was easier than secondary school, but so far I've been getting bashed for saying that lah. Okay, because everybody thinks otherwise. Okay, yeah, but I wasn't a really really good student when I was in secondary school. I didn't really study much. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to introduce to you, right? Okay, six different items. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk to you is, of course, the introduction. Okay, and then I think most of you are here because for this current batch, there's a lot of changes to the JC admission. So that's something that we'll address. Okay, we'll also address certain common combinations. Okay, followed by subject analysis. So basically, what to expect for Sec 3 next year. Okay, and then we'll end this off by Q&A and also a FAQ session. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So post-secondary education pathway after Set 4 exam. So basically, right now, as everybody is in secondary school, we have to think ahead. What's our next step? What's our next path? Right. So in Singapore, we have identified 6 major paths. Right. And of course, first one we have the JC or Millennium Institute path. But as all of you all know, there's a new change to this JC pathway, whereby we have this thing called L1R4, which I will explain in the next step, okay, in the next slide. Next, of course, we have our polytechnics, and number 3 is the Poly Foundation program, which then leads to Poly. And number 4, we have a higher NITEC program. We have our very specialized NAFA program that is more related to arts. And of course, students also have a choice to stay on in their secondary school to do Set 5 G3 subjects. Okay, so these are the 6 major paths. Okay. Yep. Next. Okay, so there is a huge change to this entry criteria to JC because from the 2028 joint admission exercise, the MOE changed the L1R5 to L1R4. Okay. This means that the number of subjects required for JC admission has been reduced. Last time, L1R5 means you need 1 language and 5 relevant subjects, but now it will change to just 1 language and 4 relevant subjects. In the later slides, we will be sharing with you some scenarios and also some real life examples, give you some scenarios to help you understand if your child is scoring this, how will this change affect them? Okay, and not just that, MOE will also lower the cap on the bonus points. If you all know, last time the cap is 4 lah, so your CCA can -2, your third language can -2, and stuff like that. But now the cap is on only minus 3 points for JC admission. Okay. Basically, they are just removing one subject to be calculated for your JC admission. Okay, and then because of that, the qualifying threshold will change from the 20 points now down to 16 points now. Okay, so why is there this change? Okay, and what does this change means? So we identified that basically just having this one less subjects, we also agree that students now have more options in designing their learning. Okay, in the past, parents will be like, "Hey, go and do triple science. Triple science is very good." You know, this kind of stuff. But with this change, right, it is almost like MOE is telling you, don't really need to do triple science anymore. Yeah. Okay. So now, because you don't need to do triple science, technically it means that you have more leeway and you have more options to do other stuff. Okay, your students are encouraged to choose subject combinations that matches their strength, interests, and also aspirations. There have been a lot of push towards students to take up coding, to take up music, to take up computing, that kind of stuff. So these are certain things that definitely can be explored as well in this time and age. Okay, there's no need to take more than 7 subjects now just to be adequately prepared for your JC. Okay, so last time, if a student were to take triple science, it means that in total, right, they'll be taking a total of 9 subjects, which is a very, very heavy workload in secondary school, right? But right now, the schools recommend for G3 students, at least I'm speaking for the G3 cohort, okay? For G3 students, they are recommending students to take 7 or 8 subjects now. So they discourage taking of 9 subjects now, right? And this really means that you have more free time to learn beyond the exams. You can focus more on CCA, you can focus more on your outside extracurricular activities, okay? And it encourages them to pick up other interests, okay? And all this is to help our students to keep their well-being good.
Okay, so for those parents, okay, or for students who are not very sure, there's actually a new JC system. Okay, so back in our times, it was out of 90 points. Okay, so each H2 subject is basically 20 points worth. Okay, and then each H1 subject is basically 10 points worth. Okay, so for those of you who have siblings in JC, okay, you probably know this. Okay, that as of this current graduating batch, that means there's 2025 J2 batch. Okay, there will be a new change. Okay, which is this. So what will be counted in your rank points will be your 3 H2 subjects. Okay, so for those of you who are not sure what H1, H2 is, you can think of them as a bit like a combined science versus a pure science kind of thing. So H2 you learn a lot more, okay, and then H1 you learn less. Okay, so currently one of the big change here is number one, your PW, which is project work, is no longer calculated as your points. So back then it was calculated as 10 points, but now it's more of a pass-fail thing. Okay, so technically your project work shouldn't affect your grades unless you fail. Okay, but from experience, it's a bit difficult for you to fail PW. Yeah, unless you really try to fail it. Okay, the next big change here is actually your last H1. Okay, is no longer counted into your rank points. Okay, so it brings down the total from 90 to 70 points. Okay, we believe that this also probably MOE's a way of trying to get the students to be a bit less focused on their studies lah. Okay, however, this can still be counted. Okay, if it increases your total rank points. So that means you didn't do so well for your 3H2, and then you actually add in your H1 and it pulls up your overall score. So that's when it will be counted. Okay, so for those of you who are thinking of entering JC, okay, you'll be thinking, hey, what are the combinations that I have, right? So there are 3 main branches. One is, of course, your pure arts and pure science stream. Okay, so what you will see in the table is for a science student, you typically take 3 science. So 3 science includes maybe like chem, bio, and then the last one is math. So math is considered under science. For arts, it will be 3 humanities, for example, history, literature, econs. Okay, but every JC student needs to take 1 contrasting subject, which is the one that we bolded, okay, at the bottom. So for a science student, you are supposed to take something like a humanities. So for me, I took BCME, which is Biochem Math, followed by Econs. So someone that is taking art stream could be taking maybe history, literature, econs, and then math. Okay, but there's also this stream which is known as a hybrid stream. Okay, where they basically take two science, two humans. So it could be like chem math, then econs and literature, something like that. Okay, so I think knowing this new JC system actually has some sort of implication as to what you guys want to pick for your subject combination. Okay, okay. So what is this new JC system? Sorry. Sorry. So what is this new JC system trying to focus on? Okay, actually, like I said earlier, it will be a bit less focused on your academics, especially on a contrasting subject. So meaning if you are really not good at math, because you are forced to take math, so now you have the option of, actually I don't really have to care so much about the math because at the end of the day, even if you don't do so well, it's not really counted in your points. Okay, however, if you are trying to apply for very prestigious courses, for example, like law, like doctor, like dentist, right? Then you still have to do well decently for every other subject. Okay, so basically you can focus on your strengths, okay, and then not worry so much on your weaknesses. Okay, but I think the biggest implication as to why we raise this up is also because it technically will affect what you pick in the upcoming streaming, okay, which is at the end of the year. Okay.
So as everyone know, right, at the end of Sec 2 students are required to do a subject selection exercise. Last time they always call it streaming, but there's a change in the way they phrase this now. They just call it subject allocation exercise or subject selection exercise. Okay. At the end of Sec 2, students will then get to choose their subject combinations that they will have to take for O levels. These will actually also apply for students who are in IP, even though they are not taking for O levels, but they are technically still taking these subjects for A level exams. So their streaming will also come in Sec 2, regardless whether you are O level track or IP track. Okay. Then of course the questions they'll ask is it if I choose this, I want this subject means I can get it? No, it does not mean that. Okay, there are always criteria for every single school, and I can put it out here. Most criteria for every school, like for example, if you want to take Sec 3 pure science, okay, maybe some schools, most of their criteria will be like you need a 65% or 70% for your Sec 2 end of year exam score. Okay, example, if today your child scores overall scores 70% for their science exam, then yes, they are eligible to take a pure science in Sec 3. Okay, then for example, if your child gets only a 60% or maybe 55% for like math, then they are not eligible to take A math in Sec 3. Yeah, so this is the criteria that I'm referring to, okay, which we will share more later also. In general, according to the Singapore Examination Board, okay, for G1 to G2 students, they recommend a combination of 6 subjects. G2 to G3, if you are a student who has a mix of G2 and mix of G3 subjects, right, then they recommend you to take 6 subjects. If you are G3, the options is actually quite wide. You can choose whether you just want 6 subjects, 7 or 8. But different schools have different criteria. There are some schools, like for example, I think PLMGS, okay, Paya Lebar Methodist Girls School. They are G3 students. They only can choose either to take 7 subjects or 8 subjects. The 6 subjects option is not available for them. Okay, so please check with your school. Most likely your school will also have handouts given to you, or they have slides for you to refer to. Okay, and if you really have some questions when you can't really reach out to your school teacher, you can reach out to us. If we are available, we will be happy to clarify certain things with you. Okay. Okay, I see a question here. Are there any implications like if you G3 and take only 6 subjects? Okay, so right now, right, as just now I mentioned, for JC, if you want to go JC, you need L1, R4. So technically means the subjects that will be counted for your scoring system is only 5 subjects, right? But you are taking 6 subjects. So it is equivalent to you saying, okay, you took 6 subjects, but you only choose 5 out of the 6 subjects for calculating your score. So meaning to say, you have an extra subject as like a buffer. Okay, but of course, some schools say that just one subject as buffer not enough. You need two subjects for buffer because learning more means that in the future you have more options. Yeah, so that's the rationale why some schools only force 7 or 8 subjects for G3 students, right? So to answer the question, 6 subjects can? Yes, you can. Still can. Okay, teacher Nicholas, next.
Okay, so as what we have mentioned, basically right now, the trend is anywhere between 7 to 8 subjects. Because I have some students that tell me, actually my school tell me I can only take 6 or 7. So I would say it really depends on school. Okay, and there's really like no one size that fits everyone. This kind of solution. Okay, so a 7 subject combination, okay, could look like this: English, one humanities, which is social studies, and then your humanities elective could be history, literature, geography. It depends on your school. Okay, and then you have math, because your e-math. So this mathematics here refers to your e-math. Okay, and then you also have your mother tongue, okay, or higher mother tongue. Okay, followed by maybe A math, and then you could either pick maybe to do chem physics, so pure chem, pure physics. If not, a combined science with another humanities. Okay, 8 subjects, okay, which is in our generation like the norm. Okay, will be a double math, and then usually will be 2 sciences. If not, will be combined science and then 2 humanities. So I would say that generally, I don't think that the combinations have changed much. Okay, I think it's just there's this focus of wanting to get away from being so triple science focused. Okay, or oh, you must take 9 subjects. Because back in our days, 8 or 9 subjects were the norm, right? But now you see a more shifting of trend towards like 6 to 8 subjects.
Yeah. So if you look at the column that says 7 subjects, right? So when you choose your 7 subjects, there is one under 7 subjects. There's 2 pathway. If you look at the bottom, you see chemistry and physics. Okay, that actually refers to the student taking pure chemistry and pure physics. So chemistry as one standalone subject and physics as one standalone subject. Students usually choose this route because they are more confident of their capability in their sciences, right? Then on just beside it, we have a combined science together with another humanities. So these students probably choose this route because they feel that they are not very good at science. In fact, they feel more confident taking another humanities subject, like for example, geography, lit, or history. So this route over here may seem like, oh, I am choosing science focus or humanities focus. And you are right. It is really whether or not you are choosing science focus stream or humanities focus stream, because eventually this pathway will then lead up to your JC stream, which what teacher Nicholas mentioned just now. In JC stream, we have art students and we have science students. Okay.
Okay, so there's one question here. So is combined science counted as one subject? Yes. So it's a bit like your social studies plus another humanities elective, even though you are studying 2 different things. So let's say like SS plus lit. So how do they count the score? They will take half of each and then they will combine together. So if let's say A1 plus A1, then obviously it'll be an A1. But if let's say you didn't do so well for one of them, you got C5. Then the other one you did really well A1, maybe your average could be between like a B3 to an A2. Yes, so technically you are studying another subject, but then you are kind of like shortchanging yourself in terms of how many results you can put on the table. So combined science, same thing. For example, bio plus chem or physics plus chem, but it's counted as one subject. So you only see one A1 or one A2 or one B3 instead of like 2 separate things. Yes. Does core humanities refer to job history list? Yes, yes. So the word core and elective. So the word core means that it is basically standalone. So humanity, let's say like history. So your history grades will be your grades for your that humanities. But for elective, we usually call it elective with SS, meaning is counted as one subject when you're taking your score lah. Yep. So the word elective just tells you that it's basically making up half of the score of that particular humanities. Yes. So you could do history, job, or lit in as an elective, you could do it as a core. Just that if you do it as an elective, then there is less weightage of certain content. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's one important thing as a science teacher I have to share with everyone here. So um, sometimes, right, students feel that they struggle in science in school, and then because of that, they feel like they don't dare to take pure sciences and they want to go for combined science. Okay, there may be many reasons why students is not excelling in their science at a Act 2 level. Okay, many reasons, like for example, lack of discipline. Number two, maybe sometimes what they claim is the school teacher is not good, the school class is very disruptive, or maybe they just never seek enough help, right? So there's multiple reasons why they feel that science is not manageable at the Sec 2 level. However, as they grow older, right, they will actually realize that, as they become more mature, they realize that, the science concept actually is quite easy to grasp. And then when they go JC, they realize that, oh, maybe I want to take science in JC. Okay, because maybe science gives me more options and stuff like that. But because they chose combined science, right, you need to understand that if you have chosen combined science, can you go JC? My answer is yes, you can. But you will lose out a lot because to take JC science, right, they really use quite a lot of your foundation in your secondary school, which combined science they may not teach you. So there will be a lot of bridging that you have to do, especially if you are going from combined science to a JC science, right? For humanities wise, also has some leading up to JC. Okay, but from what I know, if you are taking, for example, you are taking a job elective. Okay, for example, because you pair job elective with your half social studies, then if you go JC, you want to take pure job, it's still okay. The bridge is not too much because in JC they will reteach the geography concepts again.
Okay, there are a few questions. Okay, maybe we quickly answer first, then because we need to move on. Okay, so I'll just quickly briefly answer. So one question from one of the attendees: if I want to take pure science and pure science needs A math, do I need to take E math as well? Okay, so E math is compulsory. I don't really understand what you mean by needs A math. So I am thinking, are you talking about entering JC? If you are talking about entering JC, then I will address this later on because it's part of my slides. Yeah.
Mm.
But if you're asking, do you need A math to do well in your like double science or whatever? I don't think there is much of a link
Yeah.
to that in secondary school. Yeah. And then there was this question, how heavy is student taking three pure science? Have you answered that already?
Oh, don't worry, that one we'll cover in the next slide later.
Can. Okay, so we will go on. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to do a scenario just to let you all compare how it may work for your child. Okay, so over here we have this guy called Jonathan. Okay, he's a proud student of BlueTree Academy. He's a very hardworking student. Okay, so from early morning to late night, he always study one. So he's like basically an A student. Okay, so we have two Jonathans. One Jonathan is taking 7 subjects, and the other Jonathan taking 8 subjects. And over here, this is the comparisons. When Jonathan is taking 7 subjects, okay, if these were his O-level scores, by counting the L1, R4, whereby English is the L1, the E-Math is the R1, the chemistry is the R2, the SS plus literature is the R4, and the physics is R3. By calculating all this, he gets an aggregate score of 8. Okay? On the other hand, if Jonathan were to take 8 subjects today, he has an additional geography. He decided that he took geography because that he loves geography and he feels that geography is a very interesting subject. And he managed to get an A1 for the geography. Because he took this extra subject and he got an A1 for this geography, he now used this geography to count into his aggregate score and he removed the SS plus lead. Because as you can see, his SS plus lead isn't doing that well. He got a B4. Okay, and because of this, because of the geography, he used geography to count into his score and he removed SS plus lead from his scoring. And now his new aggregate score is 5. Okay, so when you have more subjects, these are the things that you can do. You can use, basically you have more subjects, you have more chances of the subject performing well. If you have less subjects, right, then uh, the way, if you have less subjects, you have less room for errors. Okay, so in general, having more subjects give you more room to create a lower L1 R4 score, but we still have to put it out here. More subjects means you need to study more as well. Okay. Okay. So this is just now, that one is the scenario for a hardworking student. Okay. Now we go to the scenario for a not as hardworking student. So we have Agnes over here. Okay. Agnes is a very joyful student of BlueTree also, and is a living version of Minnie Mouse. She is well known to be a last-minute miracle crammer when exams are looming. Okay, so she's those kind of student who gets very serious only at the end of the exam, near the back of the exam. Okay, so over here, Agnes, when she takes 7 subjects, okay, this is her L1 R4 score. She gets an aggregate of 9, which is not bad. It's decent. It's quite good actually. Okay, but do take note. Okay, this is a scenario only. In the event, okay, if one of her literature or one of her combined science were to get worse than A2, her aggregate score will actually go up by a lot, right? But whereas when you go to 8 subjects, okay, if today Agnes were to take 8 subjects, she took an extra physics, okay, because Agnes decided, oh, okay, I like physics, so I take physics. Agnes did well in physics, okay, and then she got an aggregate score of 8. Okay, if today, let's say Agnes were to screw up her EMath, okay, if she were to screw up her EMath and she didn't get A1, at least even if she did badly for EMath, if she did badly for EMath, then she got no choice because math has to be one of the R. Okay, but in the event she did badly for physics, she can still use her literature to be counted as an aggregate score because she has a lot of subjects to curate a lower L1R4 score. In general, just understand this. If a student want to take less subject, go ahead. But they cannot afford to do poorly for any of them. If not, it will actually pull up their aggregate score by a lot. Okay, so as teachers in general, we will still highly recommend students to have more buffers. Yeah, because I put it this way: 7 to 8 subjects is really should be manageable. 9 may be too much, but 7 to 8 is perfectly manageable. Okay. Yeah. You can go next, right?
Next one. Okay. Do you want
Yeah, I can.
just go straight to subject analysis?
Yeah, you can go to this one.
Okay, so for the sake of time, okay, I think we just go straight into subject analysis. Okay, so I'll be going through the math side first, okay, and then the trimming will be going through for the science side, okay. So this is my own scale, okay, of how difficult. Okay, so those of you who are in my class, okay, I've been saying this for the longest of time. Okay, you should know this quite well already. Set one, you start off with relatively simple, okay, but of course, a lot of students started to not do so well in Sec 1 because there's a very, very big change in focus, which is basically the algebra portion, okay, of the math. Okay, Sec 2, honestly speaking, as you get stronger with your foundations, it's not that difficult. Okay, so long as you practice, okay, and I would say that the topics itself still quite manageable, okay, easy to understand. Okay, and then usually when you go up to Sec 3 EMath, so long as you do relatively well for Sec 2, I would say that most students are able to sustain throughout their Sec 3 and Sec 4 EMath. And hence, a lot of the AMath students don't really get EMath tuition. Okay, they actually focus on the AMath instead. Okay, but you will see that there's a really, really big jump. Okay, and actually, the Sec 3 AMath is actually the toughest year of the entire 4 years. Okay, it's actually same thing for your Sec 3 EMath. Okay, you realize that actually for the Sec 4 rating, I rated it a bit lower. Okay, because by then the students are, I would say, more mature. more ready and practice much more. So actually the topic itself is relatively easier to understand and to I would say master lah. Okay, so really the focus here is Sec 3 A Math. Okay, that 9.5 out of 10. Okay, honestly speaking, if I were to really rate it, it might be like a 12 or 13 lah. Okay, but yeah, okay, so if you're really strong in Sec 2 Math, then this shouldn't be that difficult. Okay, so just to say this again, E-Math is compulsory. A-Math is the one that is not so compulsory. Okay, but I would say that a lot more schools right now do still recommend to take A-Math. Okay, because A-Math is relevant to your JC Math. Okay, okay. So for E-Math, okay, I will rate it a 7 out of 10 difficulty. Okay, I would say being hardworking in E-Math is one of the very crucial things. Okay, time needed for revision. Honestly speaking, if you have been very consistent, not much time. Okay, I've seen some of my students already started to do like papers ready, maybe like since June. Okay, relevance to JC, I would say a 7 out of 10. You will still need a few topics like stats, like probability, maybe your algebra stuff. Okay, but other than that, you won't really see much relevance to your H1 or H2 math. Okay, so why is it difficult? Because it's a wide spread of topics. Okay, so for the Sec 2 students who are here, in case you didn't know, Sec 2 end of year is usually testing on Sec 1 and Sec 2 topics. So it's not just your Sec 2 topics. Okay, so it's actually a lot, which is about 20 plus topics really. You add on Sec 3 and Sec 4 topics at the O levels, you are tested about 35 to 40 topics. Okay, if I were to group them together. Okay, then afterwards, okay, you also need to go and revise your lower level. Okay, and usually some of these topics are quite independent. That means you won't really apply it when you are in upper sec. So it is like that particular kind of questions that you must revise for that particular topic. Okay, and I think one of the very scary parts is usually in EMAth, the last question of paper 2, there is a real life application, which usually spans between anywhere from like 8 to maybe like 11 or 12 marks. And usually students are unable to do that because they don't really know how to apply in real life. Okay, so this is for EMAth. Okay, so what you could expect is longer questions with a lot of parts, 5 parts, 6 parts. Okay, and each parts here could be like 3 to 2 marks. So one question alone could be maybe about like 11, 12 marks. Okay, so this is what you will see in EMAth. A bit different from what you see at the lower level of your EMAth. Okay, okay, so this is the one that I think most students are afraid of. Okay, AMAth, the difficulty really difficult. Okay, really requires you to know what you're doing. Okay, time needed for revision, I would say quite high. But relevance to JC is really relevant because everything that you do in JC, the foundations comes from your AMAth. Okay, so for my own students, I will tell them if you are a science person and you intend to take JC science stream, please take AMAth because you don't want to have to spend that extra 2 to 3 months trying to catch up all those AMAth concepts when your friends in JC have already started on learning other things. Okay, so big topics, algebra, geometry, calculus, trigo, okay, all related to your JC math. Okay, very systematic type of questions. Okay, the applications can be very wide and maybe not so routine. Okay, so why is AMAth tough? Okay, I own feel that a lot of students they really don't spend enough time to be exposed. They don't really spend the effort to go and practice their AMAth topics. So, and I think a lot of Sec 2 when they eventually go to Sec 3, they spend a lot more time on their CCA and things like that. So I think for both maths, definitely need to spend time to go and revise, but AMAth in particular. So this is for the math side of things. Okay, so for example, A math. Okay, you could see. Okay, so basically, I gave you all the solutions for the questions. So you could see that the questions are no longer about numbers. Okay, or you will see that the numbers are really complicated and much bigger, and the steps are like wow, like 8 steps, 10 steps for 3 marks. Back then, when you were in Sec 1, you write 3 lines is 3 marks. Now you write 8 lines is 3 marks. So the amount of things that you have to write. Okay, on the left side, you have a O level question, okay, which is dealing with trigo and calculus, which is a differentiation. Okay, also a lot of things to write, a lot of letters, a lot of cosine, tangent, da 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 da. Okay, it's a very different experience. Okay, so do get ready for what is about to come, okay, for your AMAth questions.
So I have just posted a summary of the science difficulty ranking for Sec 1, Sec 2 science, physics, chemistry, bio, and combined science in the chat. You can take a look. So this is purely just my own speculation, and I will of course explain along the way why I feel that way. Okay. First, now we are going to go into whether or not what is bio, what's chemistry, what's physics, right? For parents who do not know what's bio, chemistry, and physics, okay, in general, this is how I tell my students, okay? If it's something that is green, wriggly, about bacteria and stuff like that, it's always about biology. Okay, if it's stinky, okay, chemistry. If something doesn't work, you want to figure out how to make it work, it's physics. Okay, so it's quite logical. Okay, next. Okay, so let's first talk about pure chemistry. So pure chemistry over here is basically the study of how matter interact in the world we live in. Okay, whether or not this matter interact with this matter interact with that, this matter react with this matter react with that. Okay, it is the central and the core science in our Singapore education system, which is why for most schools, chemistry is actually compulsory. Okay, as of now, there's only one school I know chemistry is not compulsory, which is MGS. Okay, if any of y'all here have children from MGS, MGS has this year, MGS has came out with a new subject combination whereby students can actually choose not to even take chemistry in Sec 3. Yeah, but I don't recommend that, okay? Because chemistry to me, I really think is quite important, right? Okay, then difficulty-wise is 8 upon 10, okay? It is considered quite high for the sciences, okay? Why? Because chemistry is actually a topic, right, that requires you to have very, very strong scientific knowledge. When I say strong scientific knowledge, means that there are actually a lot of things you have to memorize. Reactivity series, anion table, cation table, and there's a lot more. The periodic table, a lot of things to memorize, okay? And not just memorize, and it's not like you memorize already, you can just vomit out. No. You memorize already, you have to apply. Okay, so if you're not good at memory, you already will struggle. And then your memory is bad, plus you don't know how to apply, then you struggle even more. Okay, which is why actually a lot of students have chemistry tuitions. Okay, the difficulty is really 8.10, and the time needed for revision is actually quite high as well. Okay, I would say the relevance to JC is also quite high because, like for example, if let's say your thought is you want your child to go to take medicine next time, chemistry is definitely a compulsory subject that you need. Okay, if you look at the question at the side there, okay, so they will ask you things like arrange the metals in decreasing order of reactivity. This question over here in decreasing order of reactivity, can I find clues from the question? Answer is no, because this question comes from a brain. Okay, you didn't memorize, you cannot do this question. Yeah, right. So this is one. Then afterwards, they ask you to identify which metal is calcium and write the equation. Same thing. You have to memorize like the skeleton formula, and then you apply it in this question. Yeah. So memorize then apply. Memorize then apply. So this is chemistry. Okay. Okay. Next, we have physics. Okay. So physics, trust me, a lot of students always come and tell me, "Wow, teacher, I hate physics. Physics so hard. Teacher, my math not good, so I shouldn't take physics." Okay. So yes, it's true. Physics is quite formula heavy. Okay, this subject is formula heavy. Okay, and actually, if you didn't know, it's actually quite relevant to math also because there's some mathematical manipulation of equations, subbing in of numbers, right? But actually, physics is quite relevant. It's related to quite a lot of science course. Okay. Good news is this: physics, if you can understand, you don't need to memorize a lot of things. Okay, that's the good news about physics. But the issue here is many students do always feedback to me nowadays, and they say that I don't know if it's true. This is what I heard. They say that their school teacher can't teach physics. This is what I heard, and because of that, they don't like this subject. Okay, to me, I actually feel that physics is actually really quite easy because if you give the heart to try to understand how it works behind it, actually really you don't need to memorize anymore. Okay, and then O-level questions always revolve around the concept. Once you understand something, the concept comes naturally to you, and then you will know what to write because it's logic. Once you, for example, if you know how to open the door once, you know how the mechanism of how to open the door, you know it at the back of your head, then when the question comes, you automatically can write something about it because it's logic. Yeah. Of course, maybe the formula, that part you need to memorize lah. Okay. So difficulty wise, I would put it. At first, I want to put 6, but I will put it now 7 because it requires strong math foundation as well. Okay, because of the formulas and stuff like that. Okay, time for revision, not as much as chemistry, because if you can understand, not much revision, not much memorization is needed. Relevance to JC is 7.5. I give this value also partly because of past trends. Okay, as you all know, physics and chemistry is actually the more common subjects that people are taking in JC, right? But there's a gradual shift. Okay, there's a gradual shift towards bio because if you all know, in 10 years' time, actually, I would say the bio industry will be blooming. For example, all the biotech, all the nanotechnology and stuff like that. Okay, so bio is also important, which is the next one. Okay, so bio, extensive syllabus to memorize. If parents, you have not seen the bio textbook, please do take the effort to go down to Popular with your kid and look at the bio textbook. Your eyes will open. Okay, it's quite thick and the words are super small. So how many pages are there? I'm not sure, but it's really quite thick. A lot of things to memorize. Whatever your child is learning in Set 1, Set 2 bio is a scam. There's more to that. There's so much more to that. Okay, if you are taking pure biology. O-level questions can be very straightforward, but it is only straightforward to students when they already memorize the content. Yeah, right? And then I strongly do not recommend students to take pure bio together with geography and pure history, because pure geography and pure history has a lot of memory work to do as well. So it can be quite hard on the brain. Okay, biology, useful for medical and life sciences related course, but biology is not compulsory for dentistry and not compulsory for medicine. Okay, all the bio that you are learning now does not even help for dentistry and medicine. When you reach that stage, right, you need a deep, more in-depth kind of bio. Okay, so in general, if you are a very hardworking student, bio definitely will be good for you because you just need to give the effort, the result will show. Okay, memorize, 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 and then just chunk it out, chunk it out. Okay, difficulty wise, 6 upon 10, but requires a lot of effort. Time needed for memorization, I would say, is really 10 upon 10 because there's so much things to memorize. And students often feedback about this. They say, oh, I already memorized this in Sec 3. I spent so much effort to memorize in Sec 3. And then when I go to Sec 4, I have to memorize the Sec 4 topics. I forgot everything in the Sec 3. Then when they start to go to O levels, then they realize that, wow, there's so much to memorize. Everything start coming again. So for bio, right, it's really important to have consistent work. You cannot just let yourself forget everything in Sec 3. It has to follow you even when you go up to Sec 4. If not, when you near the O-level period, you really will struggle a lot. Okay, relevance to JC, not as much. Okay, 4.10. I know of quite a lot of friends who in the end go into, for example, life science, even though they only take H1 bio in JC. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, so next, combined science. Okay, combined science usually only come in the form of physics pair with chemistry or chemistry pair with bio. Okay, unless the student is taking pure chemistry, and then they can choose to pair their physics with bio. Okay, that's only if you are taking pure chemistry. So in general, when you are taking combined science, content way less. Okay, content is about 20 to 30% less than pure sciences because many of the difficult topics are removed. Okay, and exam questions are a bit more straightforward. They will just ask you to state this, state that, describe this, describe that, and maybe just simple explanation. Okay, easy to score. As long as you put in consistent hard work, there's no reason why you shouldn't score for combined science. I always tell my students this: if you cannot score for combined science, it's just proof that you are not hardworking enough. Okay, then for the difficulty wise, I put it as 5 upon 10. Okay, because in combined science, one subject, even though it's considered one subject, but you study 2 subjects, time needed definitely will be more because you're studying 2 subjects just to be combined. just for it to be combined together. Okay. Sometimes some students will tell me this. Wow, teacher, my chemistry do so well this time round, but my physics pull me down. Wasted. Okay, so this is some common issues that combined science students face. Okay, relevance to JC is 5 over 10. If you go JC, you want to take H2 science, you can. But like what teacher Nicholas mentioned just now, there'll be a lot of bridging to do. Okay, you have probably realized that the first 6 months, you'll be struggling so much with science because how are there so many things I don't understand? Because you didn't take pure sciences in secondary school. Okay, but if you're very, very sure that if you want to go JC to take art stream, then combined science is definitely the way for you because it's a subject that won't give you too much stress and it's easy to score. Yeah.
So so we are done doing all the subjects analysis. Okay, I just wanted to share something with all the parents here, and also if there's any Sec 2s here. Okay, I mean I do see some of my own students here. Okay, so actually the later you start, okay, the more pressure you're gonna feel during WA3 and end of year. Okay, I'm gonna show you these numbers. Okay, so imagine you are a student, okay, that just don't care about math. Okay, you are smart, but you don't care about math. You fail the first WA, you fail the second WA, you fail the third WA. Okay, and then you decide, actually I'm quite smart. Okay, I just study myself or I ask someone to help me. Then you get a 75%, okay, for your end of year. And you average to get a 59.5, which is basically a C5. Okay, not that this is not good grades. Okay, it's more of when you are competing with all your other friends trying to select your subject combination. Okay, you realize, you don't get a priority. Okay, or there are some schools that say if you don't get 60%, okay, for your EMath at Sec 2, you don't get to choose EMath as one of the subjects. Okay, so that's something that you need to take note of. Okay, and for those of you who are here in Sec 2 and you are not doing so well in the first 3 WAs or first 2 WAs, okay, you need to kind of like go and start soon. Okay, so right now it's like almost WA3 period, but some of you are slowly starting to take your WA3. Okay, versus another student, wow, very consistent, 29, 30, 27 out of 30, 29 out of 30, almost full marks for every exam. Okay, end of year, maybe the day you fall sick, something happened to your pet, okay, and then you just not in the mood to do. Okay, but then you realize, even though end of year was 60% weightage, I still average out to be a 75.5, which is still an A1, right? And to be able to get 75%, okay, or to be able to average 75% throughout your entire results, actually, it is very decent. Okay, so this is for a really, really strong student that something happened to you at the end of the year. Okay, or you could be this student here who have been really, really consistent for WA1 and 2, okay, but something happened to you at WA3. Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, maybe you never bring your calculator in. Okay, then you cannot type in the trigo values. Okay, then you get 12 out of 30. Okay, but end of the day, you manage to score a 78. Okay, and then you realize, wow, my average actually still quite good there. Is 76%, still A1. Okay, and then you have this student who is just I would say mediocre, putting in some effort to get 21 out of 30 for WA3, which is the A, and then end of the day still never do well. So I end up with 57%. Okay, so I think what I'm trying to tell you all here is this. If you have a very, very strong WA1, WA2, WA3, actually it is about 45% to maybe about 50%, depending on which school you're from. Okay, but I know there are some schools it's only about 30%. Okay, but having a strong base actually gives you that privilege or that ability to say, hey, look, I'm really doing so well in math. Actually, I want to spend a bit more time to maybe work on my sciences, my humanities, my English, my Chinese. And you have that luxury of room to not score 80, 85%, 90% for end of year, and yet still do well for your overall. Because at the end of the day, right, yes, you are picking A math, yes, you're picking E math, you also need to pick your other subjects, right? Your sciences, your combined science, and to be able to get a really, really decent average throughout all the subjects, I would say it's actually more advantageous than trying to get like or the top in math, top in science, and then you flunk all your other subjects. Okay, so I think this is something that's relatively important that I wanted to share with most of y'all. Okay, and yeah. Okay, so I think one common misconception that a lot of students have is hey, my friend say want to go triple science, my friend say want to go W humanities, double whatever, and I just follow lor, I just follow my friend because if not I scared I got no friends. Okay, but honestly speaking, it's really really not about choosing your classmates. Okay, you will know the implication when you go for your social combination. If you follow your classmates, you might hate it. Okay, you might not do well. Okay, and maybe at the end of the day, even if you enter the same class as your friends, maybe something happened and then you all won't be friends anymore. So it's really not about your friends per se lah. Okay, this time round, pick it at a more, I would say, practical and a more sensible way. Mm. Okay, yeah. Teacher, me, you got anything to add about any advice for them before they?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
parents, I am not sure how involved everyone is with your child's study, because after all, right now, secondary school sometimes is really out of the scope that you can care about. Okay, but do check in with your child to see if they are struggling or if they need help. Because what I realize about students nowadays is that they are struggling, but they think that it's fine. They think that they can still manage. Okay, um, a lot of times, for at least for my students, I would put in the effort to go and check in with them to see how they're doing. If they need extra help, I'll give them extra help. But I also do notice that there's many of the kids out there, they do not have this kind of benefit lah. So what I'm trying to say is this: WA3 is this period, but it's not over yet. Okay, this 15% is important. Okay, and I always tell my students this: don't underestimate this 15%. This 15% can change you from a 69% to a 70%, from a B3 to a A2. Okay, then of course EOY is still some time away, but we can focus on WA3 first, right? Okay, teacher Nicholas, next slide.
Okay, so very cringy quote. Okay, not cringy quote lah. Okay, just a quote for y'all. Okay, sometimes you make the decision right. Okay, sometimes you make the sometimes you make the right decision. Sometimes you make the decision right. So honestly speaking, choosing subject combination has never been a tough thing to do. Okay, and what you can do now, okay, is if you're still undecided, okay, it's fine because you still have a couple of months there. You should really make sure that you go and put in a lot of effort in the last stretch, okay, and then from there, make sure that you have enough grades. Okay, make sure that you meet every criteria, and then you have that option of choices. Okay, don't be the one that get like on the fringe of like 60%, 50%, and then end up you cannot choose the subjects that you want. Okay, so make sure that you have that choice. Okay, so first to help you all, okay, we are having our master class. Okay, don't worry, nothing is selling here, it's all free. Okay, yeah, so me and teacher Shen will be having a master class for math and science. Okay, for math side, you'll be I think the dates are swapped, right? Teacher Shen, your one is on the this is on Wednesday, right?
No, correct.
Eh?
Right? Okay.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so the masterclass will be running. Okay, so sorry. Okay, confusion on my end. Okay, it'll be running. Okay, and you are now free to welcome to join us. Okay, it'll be free. We'll give you the materials. Okay, for math side, we'll be running through I think four topics. Yeah, four topics. Direct and inverse proportion. Okay, I'll be doing maths and skills. Okay, I'll also be doing trigonometry, and also I'll be doing Pythagoras' theorem. Okay, so this one, I would say quite hot topics for the WA3, and most of my students are going for those topics. I mean, at least the schools are in those, as in those range of topics lah. Okay, you can also join your friends. Okay, because it's online, so actually, I won't really say that there'll be a cap to the number of students, but it's really to help your benefit lah.
For science, right, as of now, WA3, most students are going to be tested on electricity, which is their nightmare topic, because they always tell me the teacher in school cannot teach electricity. They just say this. Okay, but anyway, electricity will be covered in this masterclass, and also digestion, which is a very content-heavy topic, will also be covered in this masterclass. I am also covering some other Sec 2 topics as well, because I am trying to point out what are some common pitfalls, some common mistakes, and common misconceptions. I'm trying to correct them. Okay, so if you're free, do join us. Definitely your child will benefit from this webinar. Okay. You can take a screenshot or you can take a photo at this QR code. Then you can scan later if you want. Okay. Before we go to the Q&A, I do want to share one more thing before you go to the Q&A. Teacher Nicholas, can you go back to the slide on the top-down approach and bottom-up approach?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, parents, if you're free, please sit down with your child to, I mean, I feel that the subject selection, the combination shouldn't be just like the parent's choice, or it shouldn't be only the children's choice. Of course, best is like a combined choice. Okay, you can share your feedback. The child can also share their feedback, and then you all both come to a common consensus. How do you do this? You can either do this via the top-down approach or the bottom-up approach. Okay, our top-down approach over here is basically you work up from the top. You know, okay, what are the goals? What are the top goals that you want? What are some jobs out there that you know that you like? What can you foresee yourself doing? And then from there, you tell yourself, okay, if you really like to do this kind of job, then what subjects are relevant? What subjects are relevant? Okay, and then from there, then it will help you with your subject combination. The bottom-up approach is more from within. You first ask yourself, what subject do you like? You may not know exactly what jobs are out there, but what subjects do you like? Which subjects do you think that you can score well? Which subjects you find it very interesting, you want to learn more? And then from there, that can be one of your factor into choosing your subject as well. Sometimes parents impose the subjects onto the students, but the students may not like the subject. And because if they hate the subject, they will never score one. Students right nowadays are very straightforward. If they hate the teacher, they hate the subject, they won't score. Okay?
Can we move on to the Q&A?
Yeah, we should move on to Q&A now.
Okay, can. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the Q&A. Okay, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to raise it up. Okay. Okay, okay, we will just see whether there's any questions first. Okay, if not, then we will answer some commonly asked Q&A. Okay, so I think just now there was one question about implications to JC if you take pure bio and then combine physics and chemistry. Maybe Shishami, you want to answer that.
Okay. So from what I see so far, right? If a student take pure bio and then they take a combined physics and chem, right? When they go to JC, more often than not, they find themselves taking the art stream or the hybrid stream. Okay. There's only two reasons why the student choose to take pure bio. Number one, either the student find the topic really very interesting and they really like bio a lot. If not, the student probably felt that bio is the easiest subject to score out of the three sciences. Okay, so knowing the fact that these two are the reasons, okay, usually when the student go over to JC, they will definitely not choose science stream one, because if you take science stream, means that you need to take more than two sciences. So the students confirm will only take art stream or hybrid. Okay, so if you are taking a hybrid stream, then yes, you can still take your bio because you like bio a lot. Yeah, but in the event you want to take a science stream, that means that you have to take an additional chemistry or physics. But then your chemistry and physics right now is combined, so you have a lot of bridging to do. Okay, so once again, if your child goes to art stream or hybrid stream, then there won't be much issue. But if they choose to go science stream, then it will be an issue. Okay, feel free to just ask any queries you have. Okay, we have time, we can answer them. Okay, do I suggest pure chemistry and pure physics? Okay, let me put it this way. Okay, if let's say your child enjoys pure chemistry and pure physics. Of course, I definitely will say if let's say your child likes chemistry and physics, I would definitely suggest pure chem and pure physics. Okay. Why? Because right, these two subjects is, in my opinion, is quite relevant. Usually, how I ask my students is, I will ask them this: do you foresee yourself doing biology related stuff? Do you foresee yourself doing being a doctor? Do you foresee yourself doing maybe like microbiologies and stuff like that? So if they do not, if they know that they're definitely not going to take bio, so the only sciences left is really just physics and chem. Okay. The other option, of course, is whether you should take combined physics and combined chem, which in my opinion, I would not recommend, because doing physics and doing chem actually opens up more options for you when you go to JC, when you go to uni. Okay. So in terms of options wise, I would suggest taking pure chem and pure physics.
Question: if my child would like to go to polytechnic, what are the options to choose for Sec 3? Okay, so if poly is the way to go, I would then think of this from two point of view. One is which subjects is a child the strongest at, then take those subjects. The next thing is, for example, if they want to enter a very specific course, maybe let's say like biomedical, then of course you must take bio, right? But however, if let's say they want to go into the field of like literature, then I would say you need to be smart about picking the relevant subjects. Okay, but of course, if you are picking only 7 subjects, right, then actually you don't really have much room to play with. But I would say I think one is knowing what you are good at. Okay, but of course there are some students where they will tell you, hey, actually I don't know what I want to do, like, right? Then I would say if that's the case, then go for the best, like the most confident subjects that you think that you can score the best. Okay, is social studies compulsory? Yes, social studies is compulsory. Yes, this is so the 5 things that are compulsory: your English, your mother tongue, SS plus something else, which is your social studies. E-math is compulsory, and for majority of schools other than MGS as mentioned earlier, chemistry is compulsory. So it could be pure chemistry, if not, it could be chemistry plus liquids. For the last question, you can always drop subjects, right? Uh, yes, you can drop subjects. Yes, if you don't do so well at the end of the year. So I mean, there are some people who drop certain sciences, if not, they drop certain maths, like A math. But I would say if you are going in with the mentality of wanting to early drop subject, then maybe you want to rethink whether it is the right option to go with at the start, right? Yeah. So yeah, try your. I would say don't go with the mentality that, oh, I have the luxury of dropping the subject. Then you won't try your best, right? Yeah. So try your best first, then you see how it goes afterwards. Yeah. I think the QR code
You go up one slide.
here is it.
Sorry, down.
Do I need to exit first? I probably need to exit first, right?
Never mind. You exit. Let me share screen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Feel free to keep the questions incoming. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, guys. This is the updated QR code. Sorry for the misinformation just now. So use this QR code. Okay, this QR code and the dates here are the accurate ones. So our science masterclass is on Wednesday and the math masterclass is on Thursday. So it's just one day apart, both at the same timing. Okay. If you have more questions, you can drop a text at 96160312. Okay, or you can PM us on Instagram as well.
Okay, I think we will just open up for the last few minutes. Okay, if you have any last minute questions you want to ask us, okay, we'll be here. Okay, and okay, for those of you who stayed through, okay, thank you also, okay, for supporting. Okay, hope this talk has been informative for you in helping you make a decision. Okay, but we will always be here. Okay, so if you need someone to talk to, you need any teachers to talk to, you can always feel free to come and approach us. Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone. If you all do not have any questions,
Hmm.
yes, you can go. Okay, and then we will see you at the masterclass.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for attending. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Bye bye. Okay, let's end. Okay, shall we end the
Yeah, let's end.
yeah.